All right, we are live. We're going to give people a few minutes to join. They're going to be notified that we're here. This, if the technology gods are working in our favor today, this will be live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Mint Green Publishing. Actually, though it says info, and on LinkedIn. Very exciting. So,
Yes.
for all of the people who are watching in the future, watching the replay, you're going to say, "Well, come on, let's get going," and we will. I just wanted to give a few minutes for the live audience to join. But while we're waiting, we can do introductions. I'm Andrea Henderson. I'm an executive talent strategist. I'm a partner at DHR Global, which is a top global executive search and leadership consulting firm. I work in several practice groups, but my domain industry expertise is life sciences and healthcare. I also do work in the nonprofit space, and I'm in the CEO and board practice groups as well. Today, I am joined by Alicia Gill, former CHRO, former economist. Should we even say former, though, when it comes to economists? Because doesn't that just inform so much of what you do?
Yeah, I should stop saying former economist. You're right. I
Yeah,
can't stop with the data. I'm probably going
yeah.
to mention data on this call.
So we can say former CHRO because that's a title, but former economist is sort of like something different. So former CHRO, economist, and executive coach, founder of the Era of Enough, which I think is so ironic that we're talking about it on Juneteenth, um, Freedom Day. So I'm going to ask you, Alicia, why the Era of Enough,
You know,
especially in the era of more people are trying to do more, they're trying to buy more, they're trying to be more with hustle culture. um why are you talking about the era of enough?
well, if you've been blessed to have decades on this earth, you've had the opportunity to learn and observe some things. And in the various roles that I've had, you talked about like running HR and just being a professional in general, and being a woman, being a black woman, being a woman of a certain age, you start to make some observations and you start seeing things that don't sit well. And what I started to see was that a lot of the challenges that people have had in their lives and the way that they show up have to do with feelings of inadequacy. Feelings of inadequacy. If you're a Gen Xer, then you know, right? We were out here in these streets as children. We were raising ourselves, right? Um, I always make a joke to say, they are parents, not mine, not mine. But the idea that we had to have a commercial asking people to determine if they knew where their children were at 10 p.m. That's how hard and much they were thinking about us, right?
That is so funny. Yeah, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? I remember that.
Do you know? And also 10 p.m. I felt that was a little late to do it, but it's crazy. But it's crazy, and we were on our own for so much, and we just had to put up with stuff, right? I mean, my other example I like to give is: do you remember in the playgrounds and the slide was made of iron, and you're going down this slide and you're getting third-degree burns, and if you tell your mom, she's looking at you like, "Ah, it's probably fine."
Put some
Just
butter on it.
put some butter. Yes, and check this. I'll take it to the next level. You might have been one of these moms who smoked cigarettes in the playground because that was a thing. And the cigarettes she's smoking are probably the ones you bought her because children were allowed to buy cigarettes.
That is so true. We used to drive to South Carolina in a station wagon, and they would smoke in the car with the windows up on a 14-hour drive. Okay, that
And
explains.
we were able to buy alcohol as well. So I say all that to say that in many ways, we were left to our own devices. But at the same time, there were a lot of constraints as to what you could do. You were supposed to go to college. You were supposed to get good grades. You were supposed to, right? If you're going to go to college, then you should go to grad school and you should go to the workplace. And when you get there, you should do everything they tell you to do, right? That's There was no such thing as expressing a preference,
Right.
right? There was no such thing as caring about anybody's mental health. There was no such thing. These were not things
No, we
that
took
people,
pride in being abused, actually.
yeah, right. And I always say, one person's resilience is another person's putting up with, right? We can reframe anything, right? And so as I sit here and all the time that I spent with employees when I ran HR and with individuals as I coach and just people in my life, you just hear all these stories. And I just think we've all had enough, right? I mean, haven't we really just had enough of all of that? We've had enough. We've been enough, even though we were not encouraged to believe that. People jump, they'll tell you to jump and you'll say how high if you get them to believe they're not enough, won't they?
That's true.
And the reality is we are enough. And so I am declaring that we are in the era of enough. Okay. And if you are a Gen Xer who put up that crap I just mentioned, and you're a woman and you know you're enough, then that means you know that you are worthy of having a career that and work that reflects who you are, right? We're not doing the pretzel movements so that we can fit and do the exact things that this company wants us to do, especially when we are all increasingly aware that that company can lay you off like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're
And
still
that's a
you.
relatively recent phenomenon because I know my parents' generation were believers in lifetime employment.
Well, here's the trap, the trick. We're constantly getting the rug pulled from under us. That's why I keep saying Gen Xers because it keeps happening to us.
Oh yeah. I
We,
think we're the most screwed generation. I agree.
because yes, the social contract. You show up and do your work, and the company will do its part and compensate you and enable you to progress. Money. We had pensions. That's how much they cared about you. That they would invest that amount for the long term, which is what that implies. And then we shipped into the 401k world. It's on you. It's on you. It's on you. Right. And then it's like, wow, I guess it is on me. Right. And we were supposed to. We just felt like, wait a minute, we can get fired now at will employment. What's happening?
Like you can get a good performance review, have great relationships, and still be out of a job.
Yes. And now it's really interesting because it's the white collar professionals who have multiple degrees who are getting these layoffs, and they're listening, what is this thing we call layoff, right? Because it never affected us before. The rest of the labor market is like, yeah, get with the program. Yeah,
Welcome
layoffs
to our
are a thing.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, and now that it's us, we're clutching our pearls. Like, what is happening? Is it, no, layoffs were always a thing. And people say, Alicia, is my job at risk? And I say, maybe. But also, that was always true,
Yeah,
right?
it is. Yes, period. Point. That's the end of it. Yes.
And so when I was a CHRO, I used to tell people, employees would come see me or whatever. I would say to them, look, you need to optimize for your own situation.
Most don't do that though.
They don't. That's why they looked at me crazy. But you have well, a lot of my peers are like, why are you trying to get people to not work here? But it wasn't that. It wasn't about that. It was you're a person, okay? You're not just a worker. And so you need to ensure that you're setting yourself up to be successful, to be rewarded for the things that you're doing, and to have the kind of life you want to have with the people that you love in it, right? And a job is an enabler of that, and a job is where it happens. But only you as an individual can figure out what's going to make sense for you. Maybe it made sense 2 years ago, but maybe now it doesn't.
Yeah.
Same for the company. Maybe that job role made sense 2 years ago, and maybe now it doesn't.
Yeah, especially with the way that AI is disrupting the workforce. So I was going to ask you why Gen X, but I think you laid it out. It's the generation. It's because of how we were raised, what we were raised to believe. It is the social contract that we bought into, and it's the situation that we find ourselves in now in this climate. So
Yes.
I get why Gen X.
Well,
Um,
and we're ill-equipped to deal with it. And the economy and companies have decided that the middle management and senior management roles to which we ascended, many of them are going away and they're not coming back.
yeah, yeah.
Not coming back. And it's hard for many people that I work with or that I observe to accept that. And no one's providing the support to help this population navigate through this, particularly women.
Well, you and I are. We are helping them. So I want to know how you help.
So people come to me because they feel very unsettled. So the women I work with are very successful, right?
Mhm.
So they've, and God bless, right? They should, on some level, you might say, perhaps they should have gotten more than they got. They're probably underpaid, all the things we could say about that.
Yeah.
But they come because they go, I worked really hard to get to this point. I'm not even clear that I wanted to get to this point.
Right. How did I end up here?
How did I end up here? Like, I'm out here, I'm a partner at this law firm. I don't like it. I just did it because everyone said I should do it. I was smart, I like to argue, whatever the thing was. And I wasn't going to do medical school and I didn't want to get an MBA. So, okay, I'll go to law school. Sometimes it's really that simple.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it.
And they find themselves sitting in a car before it's time to get into the building crying because they don't like it. And these are Gen X women. So that means we're in our 40s and 50s, right? I think it's a disgrace to find yourself in a situation like that and not do everything that you can to try to remedy that. So that's an extreme example. I don't want to be a lawyer, right? But there are people who are in fields that they feel like this is where they want it to be, but somehow it's not. I don't know what the next step is. I don't know if the next step should be similar to the steps I've been taking because I haven't been super happy about those steps. So therefore, I don't have any confidence necessarily that my next step I'll pick is going to be right. And also, maybe the next step should be dramatically different than where I'm at. But I don't know dramatically different. And I don't know how to explain dramatically different to my spouse, to my mama, to my auntie. I don't know how to explain that.
Right.
So they come to me and say, Alicia, help me. I don't
Right.
I don't know. And
And
I
it's so
want to,
interesting
yeah.
because we care. We care what mom and auntie and spouse and everybody says. So we have to find ways to explain it where I think the others are just like, this is what I'm doing and because it feels good to me, because it's what my soul is telling me to do. But we need to explain it.
We need to explain it and also realize that after having explained it, if it doesn't make sense to them, we're going to do it anyway
Right.
because it's our life. And so many of the women I work with, there are a lot of tears in this work, by the way,
Yes, I know.
because, right, because I asked them about the past and it's like, why did I do that? I wanted to do that, but I was told I couldn't do it. Or
Yeah.
I forgot I like that. How can I love doing that. I
Yeah.
would have loved to pursue it. You can't go back, but let's at least recognize that love, maybe you buried it.
Yeah. Yes, and we're also at the point where our bodies start telling us you can't fake it anymore, right?
Yeah.
The signs are showing up physically that we are not where we want to be, or we're not where we thought we'd be, or we're not where we need to be.
Well, I had a client whose hair was falling out behind this mess.
Oh,
Let's not even get into the burnout conversation and all the physical manifestations of what burnout can be.
yeah.
And then let's take it to the nuclear level. People getting cancer behind this mess. I'm saying this as a double cancer survivor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same.
No one can tell me, okay, No one can tell me that the stress that I put on myself for all those years did not contribute to it. They can't tell you that.
No,
I'm 100% that it did.
and they will tell you not only that it contributes, but also once you've remediated it, like you and I have, to keep it away, we have to manage our stress levels.
Amen. And I like the word we because no one's going to do it for us. A company, if you decide that you're going to show up there at 7:30 and leave at 8:45 p.m., and it's wrecking you, and you're doing it because I got to get ahead, I got to do the things, the people working with you will be like, wow, I guess that's what she does. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're out here, you may not even need to be doing that, but you've convinced yourself for whatever reason that these are things you need to do, and you're burning yourself out. And they will watch you do it. They will observe you burning yourself out to the point where you can't take it anymore, and you're out here on the floor and you done passed out somewhere. They'll just hire somebody else. I know because I did it. I was CHRO. I would hire the next person.
You
Not
know,
that they care for you, but also we're going to hire the next person. You have to care for yourself. No one's looking out for you. You have to make yourself happy, and you have to keep yourself well.
that
And
is
it's
the
weak, and I'm so sorry. I just want to say it's weak and unacceptable to play a small game and to think so little of yourself that you would do something different than that.
yeah. I remember several months ago, there was an employee, I think it was at Wells Fargo, who was found dead at her desk like on a Tuesday, and they said that she'd probably been dead for 4 days. If that doesn't tell you nobody's thinking about you, I don't know what does. Um, Very sad. Too many um, examples of that. Um,
Well,
you know,
yeah, and another example, if I may,
yeah,
you know, um, when people pass, and I've had some people pass very recently in my family, you kind of go, wow, what? And you know that person and you love that person, and you can think about what that person meant to you. And I often think, did this person live the life they wanted? Now, in terms of the person I'm thinking of, my wonderful, wonderful auntie who I love, I know she did,
did
but I
not.
don't know that she lived the life that she wanted to live.
Oh, good. Oh, very good.
That's a no regrets, leave everything on the floor type situation. That's amazing. But there are so many people who have no idea.
Mhm.
And I said, is your goal to live a life of fulfillment, meaning, and joy? Yes, Elise. Yeah. Okay. What do you want to be? I don't know. Or they may come up with a title. I want to be chief marketing. No, that is not when they read your obituary, or when somebody says, "Well, what was she about? What was she like?" They're not going to say, "Oh, well, she was a chief marketing officer. Oh, she was an executive. Oh, she got promoted 5 times. Oh, no, it's not that. You have to go inside and figure out what it is, because it's certainly not that. And if you convince yourself that it's title, then I don't think you're going to get the outcome that you're looking for.
So that is a great point. And to that point, we've been talking about career, the era of enough with career. But the reality is, so many of us are at the point in our lives where we have children, that are in private school or college. We have parents that are aging. Um, we might have a spouse or partner that's trying to find themselves, or maybe because we were charging so hard, they didn't have to. Or maybe we are spouse or partnerless. Um, how do you balance all that? How do you how do you say enough when you have all of these plates up in the air?
Yeah, and that's tough because as you're saying these, I'm like checking off. Yep, got that. Yep, got that. Here's the thing: you are one person, and there are no trophies for becoming a martyr. Like that's not winning, right? And so we have to each make our individual choices and think about how we're going to show up in each of these dimensions of our lives. because we're not going to show up at the A+ level in every dimension of our lives every single day. It's not, that's a recipe for disaster, really. We have to figure out what are the must haves, what are the things I'm going to major on and put the bulk of my energy in that. And P.S., that could be something that gives you joy. You don't get to not have anything joyful because you have all these responsibilities. That's weak. We accept that you can't do everything at the same time. Determine for a given time what is the most important thing to be focusing on and focus on that. Realizing that certain things are going to have to take a back seat at certain times. It's just true. So we just need to be much more strategic about how we leverage the finite time and the finite energy that we have. Because if we try to do everything on full blast, we're going to break. And if we break, we're no good to anybody.
Yeah. I remember when I was starting my career and I would listen to women give advice to early career people like me at the time. We were always talking about how do you have it all, right? And we would get different advice and guidance about how you had it all. And I remember there's one woman who worked on Wall Street and she had a pretty sure she had a brain aneurysm. And I just thought to myself, I mean, it can happen to anybody. But you're giving me advice on how to have it all about charging hard, about working 80, 100-hour weeks, and then being a good partner, being a good parent. And you literally cracked your head open. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that, let me see somebody healthy, who's done all this. And I really started to doubt it.
Well,
I also remember that one of the best things that happened to me in my career was that I found a babysitter who worked after 7. And I said, "Oh, you know what? That's what I need. I can do it if I get some help." Um, so those are two things that I remember from my early career that really sort of changed the way I thought.
yeah. Well, here's one thing I really think was very hurtful to people, and that is this whole conversation about having it all. Says who? All what?
Oh, what? Yeah,
What? You know, not everybody wants to be a CEO. Not everybody wants to be doing jobs that are doing the most, right? We need people at every level. It doesn't make you better or worse.
yeah,
It's not opting out. It's not playing small. It's not being less than you're meant to be. It's not those things. It's really not having it all. It's having what you want and need. And
yeah,
that's not going to look like, that's not going to look the same way for everybody. And I think where we got stuck is have it all, have it all, have it all, because this is our opening, women. This is our opening, Black women. Let's blast through, assuming that everybody wanted to blast through.
yeah,
And I think that did a disservice to people for whom that's not the life they actually wanted. And it didn't mean that, oh, they weren't taking full advantage of whatever they had. It's no, they're taking full advantage of the things that are consistent with who they want to be and the life that they want to have and the impact they want to have. It's a pyramid. Like everybody can't be at the top, right?
yeah,
You need amazing people in the middle of the bottom or managing those people to see awesome things happen. It can't just be that everybody's gunning for the top and everybody who doesn't make it there feels inadequate or that they didn't make it or they were a disappointment. That's not it. So and I reject that. I reject that whole notion of having it all. I am very focused and I really proselytize that people need to get clear about what their specific wants are and their needs are and what the frig they're interested in and what strengths that they want to bring to the table and use and make decisions based on that. This is why I don't like the word success, because to me, it's in the same category of have it all. Success has a really external connotation to it. It's about being clear on who you are and what you want and what you need, and conspiring so that the whole universe can be there to help you get it.
Yeah.
But if you're not even clear with what it is, then you're going to stay on that conveyor belt, liking it, not liking it. But I think that's weak because we are in our next chapter. How many more working years are we talking about here?
Oh, for
Are
me,
you,
I've got a good 2025.
but it's like, do you really want it to look like the past?
No.
Or do you want to really now say, okay, that was a little bit bananas. You can point to all the things that are a little bit ridiculous and all the things that weren't fair, all this stuff in their rearview mirror, and our successes too. Because that
Yeah.
success, our past successes in our minds can be a trap too. Because you
Yes.
think your future has
That's
to look like that.
addictive. It's
And it does.
addictive. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think I will have the opportunity to work the way that I worked in the past. It's going to be very different. So even if I wanted to, I won't be able to. There's somebody in the comments that say the download didn't work. Is there another way to access? But can they send you a DM to get the download? How
That's
how
right. I think they're talking about the Arrow of Enough check-in. You need to check in with yourself and figure out whether or not you have enough in your current situation. All right. So it's really to help you figure that out. But yes, if you DM me on LinkedIn, I will make sure that you get it. And my VA is on the line. She will try to help make that happen if she can on this right now. But definitely DM me. It's where I live, and I will definitely respond back. I want to make sure everybody gets what they need as it relates to that to really help them. Because you're right. People say, "Well, what? How do I know if I'm living there or no?" I just know I don't like where I'm sitting.
Mm.
It doesn't feel good. So this is something that helps you really think about, well, what exactly are the components where perhaps I'm not getting enough of what I need. And so that check-in is it's really short and it's free, but it'll really help get you started thinking about it in a really structured way.
Yeah, that's great. I will tell you that I remember when my son first went to college. He was a basketball player, and he had games or practice like every day. So every day was we were hustling to go to a game or to a practice, and he started playing when he was 4. So that was, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, right? That was my life. So when he went away to college in August, my birthday's in September, people kept saying, "Well, what do you want to do for your birthday?" And I was like, "I don't know. I guess I want to go to my son's basketball game." Like that's all I knew, and that's actually what I ended up doing. I ended up traveling to visit him and went to see him play basketball. I couldn't even think of what else to do. And I think if you have a worksheet to help people imagine something different, that's got to be so helpful.
Yeah, to get yourself thinking about it. When I work with people, it's really interesting. So there are a couple of things that we spend time on, and one of those interests. And for some women, we have to spend 2 sessions talking about interests because they have spent so much of their lives being told what they should do that peel that away, like you just talked about. I don't know. Like they don't actually know what they're interested in. How can you live into the best possible life that's going to be fulfilling and meaningful and give you joy, you personally joy, if you are not spending time doing things that you are actually interested
Hmm.
in? And if you're one of these people sitting here saying, I don't know what I'm interested in, I like process that and really give some thought. If nobody was going to judge me and I could spend the time the way I wanted to spend it, what are the things that I would be most interested in doing or observing or being a part of? What are those things? Because it
Yeah.
can't just because sometimes people make the job be the excuse. Well, I would have known if I hadn't been had to work these such and such an hours. No, sorry. No, 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 no. You can take the time and because we grown-ups, correct? We can take the time to really think through, create a list. Here are all the things that I've been told to do, or I believed I was told to do, or I believed people made me do. And if that weren't true, what would I do?
Yeah.
That's the question. And it's not an easy question. And it's
It's
not. And so with my clients, I'm in their face. Why? Because look, the self-help, self-improvement career section in Barnes& Noble is like the biggest one they have. Why? Because people out here trying to figure it out. But also people out here kidding themselves. It's just out here kidding themselves and convincing themselves that what they have, or a more elite version of what they have, is going to be the thing that's going to get them where they want to be. And it's not true. It's
not.
not.
So I want to give people the chance to ask questions. So if you have any questions, let us know. But I see a couple of people in the comments, and I see Kim Smith, and I think that's the Kim Smith that I know that also helps people through some of these challenges, right? So, um, whether that's entrepreneurship, like you have to give people options also. Like once they figure out, okay, this isn't it, what is it?
Right.
Um, and I know that Kim has a program that I'm going to help her with that is a 5-day boot camp to figure something out. She also helps people who say, you know what, I don't know, maybe I know what it is, but I know where it isn't. And this is here. And so helping people find, um, places in Mexico when they decide that, you know, being in the US no longer serves them. Um, do you get into, if they know it's not this, what is it? Or is that something that you help them extract from themselves?
People need to get clear on fundamentally what are their needs, their values, their interests, their strengths, their aspirations.
Yeah.
And once they're clear on those things, like super clear, and not like I can do 1,000 things, because that's weak. You can't do 1,000 things well. You can't. Pick the things that are most important to you and use that as a filter to know what types of things you should entertain and which you shouldn't. That's one of the biggest things that people I've worked with say. They say, Alicia, I don't go after. I used to say, stop going after bright, shiny things. Like, oh, everybody says this is the hot thing to do and this and that. So it might not be hot for you. And now what? So now you got the hot, sexy thing. Now you're sitting in the chair and you don't even like it.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
supposed to. And now you're trying to make it work and do all this ridiculousness. So for me, it's about getting super clear on, I call it your North Star, knowing really what your North Star is and who you aspire to be in this world. Because once you know that, you very easily know what is not for you and what is for you. And we spoke about the fact that the economy has changed. And for many managerial, executive level women, the jobs they had before aren't going to exist anymore, or not for them.
Right.
Big part is getting them to even accept that, but it's true.
Yeah.
So if you are clear on your North Star and you realize that you have to look at the bigger world, and the world is big, now you have a way to think about, okay, I have to try a different lane. The world
Yeah.
is saying that. The world is saying that. The job market is what it is. So how is it that I can find work that aligns with my North Star? Maybe work that I had never even considered before, but it
Okay.
actually checks all the boxes.
Yes. Or create your own, right? Your own
Yeah, and that could
opportunity.
be you.
That
And
could
but it all depends on the kind of person you are,
That's right.
right? So there are certain people, like I've got some clients who, for them, working in a company that is a very collegial environment where teamwork and this, they spend a lot of time, they like that.
I like that.
There are some people who they want to go to work and then they want to come home, and that's it. They don't want to run anything. They want to do this part, which they're proud of and they love, but
Mhm.
also their priorities lie elsewhere. And then, yes, there are people who are like, I don't want to follow anybody's script.
Yeah.
There are people like you and me who say, no, we want to create our own thing.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of people in the world. Where
All
I'm
kinds.
getting, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, I'm where I'm getting nervous is I'm seeing a lot of women who are having difficulty navigating their career in this environment where the unemployment rate is growing, and they don't know how to navigate the job search. And because there's a lot of energy around do your own thing, they're starting to look in that. They have no business doing that. It's
You know,
not
it's
who they are.
interesting. So
And
there are
they
two.
feel like they're being pushed to do that. And I think people should do it. Like I did it, you did it, but that's not everybody.
No,
It's not
it's
for
not.
everybody. And
So
then
there.
now we have the non-corporate like trap. I don't want people to be in the corporate trap, but I don't want them to be in the entrepreneurship trap either. I don't
Yeah.
want them to be in a trap at all.
Yeah.
I just want
There.
them to understand their North Star.
Right. There are two things that I'm working with people that I do to help them understand that. One is some of the personality tests to kind of say to help give them some data around what they like and what they're suitable for. The second thing is something that you said. We ask people to get to create a list of 100 things that they could do. No filter. Not because they can do all 100 things well, but just as an exercise so they can say, wow, there are more things that I can do that I didn't think about because they feel so trapped thinking I have to do this thing and I can't do anything else. But if you can write a list of 100 things, then you feel like, okay, the possibilities open up. And then you could rank, some of those things are, no, I'm not going to do that realistically, but I could. Um, and I think you start to feel better about, all right, I can do something different. I'm not trapped. The trap is really a mental trap. And once I free myself of this mental trap, then I can free myself of everything.
So I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that.
Okay.
I do think that people can do constrain themselves. Like I guess the ultimate one is where they say all they can do is this title that they have and they have already had. Like that's
Mhm.
right. You know, you got to tease people out of that, right? So especially for those of us who are, so many of us have so many talents. There's so many things that we could do. And your point, some of them we can't do that great. Some of them, but the point is, a lot of them we're hireable at. You know what I mean? We're at the level of being hireable at doing those things.
Mhm.
And the challenge is it's so wide that the hard part becomes okay, I could do a lot of things, but I'm in analysis paralysis. Now I'm applying to everything, right? You see all these articles. I applied for 3,000 jobs and I didn't get one interview, right? Like that
Right.
kind of stuff. Because there's spraying and praying. Because the part that's missing is after having explored all of the things, you have to then pick. And I'm not saying here are the only jobs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying based on your prioritization of your
Mhm.
interests and businesses, your how do you prioritize them so that you can curate how you spend your time, so that you can curate and know full well when something is for you and not for you, because you're not testing it against 50 criteria or separate criteria. Like, oh, this thing looks interesting, the pros and cons. This also looks interesting. This is totally different. Well, what? And then, so the framework that I'm working with is to help them understand here are the components. And it's hard because the hard thing is to prioritize something, to have to deselect something, right? But you like it's really important. I know, but is it in your top five? Would you turn something down if it weren't present? Like those are the hard questions.
Yeah.
Because if you're able to really go big, but then be willing to go small,
Yes.
like the example I always give is the museum. The Metropolitan Museum of Art has a lot of artifacts. How many pieces of art do you think that the Metropolitan Museum of Art has?
Um, I have no idea, but I'm sure it's a fraction of what they actually have.
They have 2.2 million things that they could put on display at any one time, right? But they don't. They curate. They have exhibits.
Yeah.
They determine which are permanent, and they determine which ones come and go. And we can do the same thing with our lives. But if you just throw everything out there, then it's like nothing is appreciated, nothing is important. No, you can't tell what's important from what's not. It's just all out there.
Hmm.
And I think it creates um, anxiety,
Yeah.
and it makes it hard for people to navigate very, very complex waters. And this is a way to make it a lot less complex. Once you can articulate who you are, what you're about, and how you want to show up, you will see there are many things that are not worthy of your time anymore. And you can focus on all the things that are, and they may have titles and they may be in spaces that you've never heard of.
Yeah, I agree. So somebody asked, how can we get clarity at this time with AI?
Clarity with I say more. Clarity about what?
I think that came up when we were talking about getting clarity about who we are, what we want to do. And are you talking about in the age of AI, or how can we use AI tools to help us get clarity? I'm not sure about that either.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
um,
one way to use AI would be, yeah, because there are so many ways you could mean that.
yeah.
I'll pick a way, right? So one way could be to enter into AI, or ChatGPT. I would say ChatGPT is my best friend, which is sad because it's really not. But spend a lot of time with them. Spend a
Yeah.
lot of time with them. Is to say, here are the most critical things for me. Here are my key strengths, not skills, but like how what am I known for? What do people say? Oh, if you need this, then you go to. And what are those things that you love? Those things that when you do, forget about your job. You're not a lawyer. I didn't ask you to put your. I know how to do legal briefs. I know. I'm not talking about that. But the things that are really that you love to do, when you get praised for it, you're like, yes. When you read a job description that's all about it, you're like, yes. Like, what are those 5 things? And what is the same thing in terms of your values? And what is the same thing in terms of your interests? And we already said how hard that was. But your interests and the things that you actually need. You don't need to be a millionaire. So if you keep trying to optimize for something you don't need, then you're going to throw off the algorithm, right? And I'm not saying people shouldn't, hello seven, I get it, like good, right? But that's not everybody, right? So if you're somebody who wants to have a certain standard of living, put that in the tool as well, and have it spit out. Say, look, I have done this in the past, but I'm open to doing many, many types of things. Given what I have told you, let me know what types of job roles do you think might be something I should consider. You could help, it could help with that. And it's just doing data mining.
Mhm,
You could
mhm.
even ask it to say, hey, I'm trying to find ideas. Ask me a set of questions that will help you and help me figure out what I should look at. So I want you to ask me the questions and I'll answer them. And then with my answers, you can tell me what I should look at.
Yeah.
It's really cool the way that you can tailor it to behave and the kind of output you could get. So I think that would be really useful because
Yeah.
so however you get to be introspective, that's what you should do. Like, so if that's going to help you with that, then okay, go ahead and do that. But if it's going to be surface level,
Yeah. I think one of the ways that people n- find out about themselves is through the lens of others. So people will say, "Oh, you're XYZ." And you say, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." And you go through that iteration. So especially if you use ChatGPT a lot, you can ask ChatGPT to tell you about yourself. Not that it's going to be necessarily accurate, but it'll give you something to react to and say, no, that's actually not true. And then feed that back in and then have the conversation and go back and forth till you get to a version that you recognize, and work from there. But I'm a believer in motion, right? So there's a certain amount of introspection and thinking that you need to do to get unstuck. But sometimes you just have to do something, right? And then if it doesn't work, do something else. I had a boss once that said his coach, his football coach said, if you are on the field and you don't know what to do, knock somebody down. And he shared that with us because he's like, there are going to be times where you're not sure what to do, but you have to do something and do something that you know needs to be done. And then if that doesn't work or you don't enjoy that, or then you can try something else, but don't just stay stuck.
Yeah, because you're going to learn. They were said differently, learn.
Right.
If you just sit in the chair stuck, then you're not learning anything. You're really just spinning and creating anxiety and stressing yourself out. Try things. I absolutely agree with you. Try things. That's how they develop software. That's why we're so annoyed when the software doesn't work. Why? They put it out because they're trying it. They don't know if it's going to work yet. They need to annoy you enough and realize, oh, guess I need to fix that, you know? And that's what entrepreneurs do. You try it.
Yeah.
And
And
then like I think a lot of this is an identity problem, especially at our age, right? We don't want to have gotten to this point and then to be seen as somebody who failed. Oh, she shouldn't have tried something new. What's she out here doing something new for? She's 55 years old. What's she thinking about? Of course it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like,
but you know what that comes from? I think in our generation, we were penalized so severely for failing. We, because if you failed and you wasted somebody's money, like I didn't pay all this money for you to come out here and not blah blah blah, blah. Or I don't
yeah,
have money for you to be playing around and blah blah blah. Or, you know, if you, God forbid, were the only, right? You couldn't fail because then you're letting down your whole race, your whole gender, your whole zip code.
right,
Um, and so over the course of years, it just becomes you just become so risk averse that you don't even know, you don't give yourself the permission to fail.
right. And it's enough because we paid a price for that.
We have paid a price. We have paid a
It's
price.
enough because you will break your back trying to please people and they don't even care that much. And that's how we got to know each other. Remember, I had done a post on LinkedIn where I said, there was a point in my life where it was so critical that everybody understand how smart I was. It was like my identity was around that. And there were several reasons why that I listed why that was true. And one of them is that I grew up in a neighborhood that was very racist in the 80s. And for me, I just had to prove that I was nobody's affirmative action baby, this and that. I'm just better than you. And here are the 10,000 ways in which I'm better. And that's why I did not even apply to a school that wasn't Ivy League. I only applied to one school, by the way. It was Ivy League. And I'm not saying it as a humble brag. I'm just saying that I was focused on people that in the end didn't care.
And don't even won't even remember you at a reunion now.
They don't even they have no idea. And that's why I'm saying it's enough. It's crazy making. I don't care how prestigious things look like. You can't impress me nowadays. Like, I don't care your title, how much money you make. I don't care what your resume says. Are you a fulfilled and happy person? Because if you couldn't figure out how to do that, then I'm not impressed. That's what you need. That's actually the game we're playing. We're trying to play the game of being a happy, fulfilled person that had an impact on people you care about and that felt good about how you showed up in the world. That's actually the game. And that may look like success to somebody or it might not. It doesn't matter. You're enough right now. And you just
So
have to believe that.
yeah, someone asked, for women currently undergoing transformation in their career, how can they feel encouraged and know that they are enough?
I speak to so many of these women. I I find out about a woman that I know who's been laid off just about every week.
Oh, I'm every day, but yes.
And a big part of that is identity. I think there has to be a mourning that happens because even though you know it's not really about you, somehow you believe it's about
So they have to grieve that self that they thought they were.
you. Yes, well, they have to grieve the fact that the decision that the company made that they no longer want your employment
Mm.
was because of something you did or something you weren't. That there was something you could have done. And
Mm.
you're mad at yourself because, but I added all this value and I did all these things and I put all these points on the board and I did all this stuff and they've laid me off anyway. It's hard for that to not feel personal. And there's actually nothing less personal than that company could have done to you because anybody in that seat would have gotten exactly the same treatment. So a big part of that is to not, and I say it like it's easy. It's simple, but it's hard to do. And it takes time. And sometimes you need therapy and friends to get yourself through that. But you really have to release that there is something that you could have done to avoid a layoff in an economy where hundreds and thousands of people are getting laid off.
Yeah,
It's obviously not about you.
it's not.
So, and you're not going to be able to be successful in terms of moving forward and being open to what's ahead of you if you don't get your mind right about that part. You really, because it's going to affect your self esteem, it's going to affect how you show up in interviews. You're going to bring that energy with you. And the energy that I would encourage you to bring is all the things that you are amazing at that they didn't want anymore, whatever. Doesn't mean that you weren't amazing, that you didn't accomplish things, that you didn't advance things on the ball, that there weren't things that you were proud of. That's where your energy should be laid. And when you take that energy, that's what you're going to bring to the opportunities before you. You're not going to be talking about, oh, they didn't appreciate. No, they didn't. They were stupid. Whatever. It doesn't matter. You're amazing today.
Yeah.
So let's think about the ways in which we can take those things that make you unique and you are unique. Let's have you understand what they are. Let's actually have you believe that they matter and are valuable. Like really, really believe that.
Yeah,
Because then you can articulate the value to a company, which is all they care about is the value you can bring.
that's right. I so agree with you because I will talk to people, I'll interview them, and they'll say, "Oh, well, I was laid off in a restructuring," and they say it really sheepishly, and I'm like, "Were you? Are you sure?" No, no, that's what happened. I said, "Well, then say it like you believe it, like because if you don't believe it, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah.
If you say it like you're doubting it, then that leaves some doubt in my mind." And it's really,
Especially if it's a leadership job,
oh yeah,
right? So if you're a manager and exec and you're bringing that energy, I'm like, so you wanted to lead something in this company. That's the opportunity we're talking about. And you are showing me that you can't even manage your own feelings and understand the context of what is happening in your career when it's happening nationwide. So if you can't even manage your own situation, why would I trust you to manage a team or to lead this particular part of the business? If you can't manage the thing that should be most important to you, which is how you show up in your own personal identity and the way you talk about yourself.
and I say the same thing for sales. If you can't sell the thing that you know most intimately, which is you, then you can't sell anything. You can't sell my company. You can't sell my opportunity. You can't sell my whatever. Um, and sales is important in every seat. Now I've sat, you know, in HR as you know, and we're looking at boxes. They're not even names. So when we're eliminating this role, or we're eliminating this layer, or we're eliminating this function, we're not saying, "Oh my God, let's get rid of Alicia." We're saying we got to get rid of this whole. It's a box. We are moving it. It's like a chess piece or a checkers piece. You can't take that personally.
Yeah, you have a new leader that comes, they have a new vision.
All the
Maybe that
time.
vision, they want to take the business in a totally different way, area. Well, you're in the area that they're not staying in. So is it personal? No, you're just in that area. Like it's business. And I think the hard lesson we're all learning in this is that it ever was it so, right? Even when you land again, you have to be ready for the next move. Like you always have to be thinking about what am I bringing to the table? What are my values? What is the value I'm providing here? I want to make sure that every month every quarter I can say this is what I delivered. Because if I would lose my job again, where would I go? What would I say I contributed? I already know. I'm ready. I'm not going to be surprised because the person that you need to be loyal to is yourself. If you place that loyalty in the company, that's a fool's errand. You can do it, everyone can do whatever they want. But the probabilities, I don't like them for doing that. And if you're wrong, then it can be devastating because now you've not set yourself up to be successful. And we're in our 50s, we don't have time to take more L's.
Yeah. Well, time is a factor. So Kim Monique Johnson says, I also support clients with understanding their values and assessment to help them name their motivations, preferences, and stressors. That's great. That's great because we have to help people. Now, one other thing that I'm going to say that I think we've talked about, I think that we're demonstrating here to help women undergoing transformation to to help them feel encouraged and know that they're enough is community. You have to be in community with other people who will support you, who will uplift you, who will affirm you, and for whom you could do the same. And I'm saying we're modeling that because, like you said, you made a post about an experience that you had that was painful that I also had. And I commented and I said, "Oh my goodness, I had the same experience." And then we ended up in each other's DMs, and then here we are.
Yeah.
Um, it's because we understand that sometimes you have to reach out and straighten somebody else's crown, and they'll straighten your crown. And then you will realize, you know what? It's I'm not the only one in this situation. And so therefore it can't just be me.
Yeah, that's true. You can't do everything by yourself. And again, this is another Gen X problem, right? We were always taught to be individual contributors. We didn't grow up working on teams. That wasn't a thing. And even in the workplace, when we were in the workplace, when we started, it was all about you, you, you. It was not teams. So it's not surprising that in moments of distress, when you can use community the most, that it's not our go-to reaction to find it.
Yeah,
But the good thing is that because we're in a digital world, it's easier to find it than it ever was.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you have a live workshop for Gen X women, 3 unconventional tips to make work for you. Next Thursday at noon from 12 to 1:30. And someone has dropped the link. I guess that your assistant has dropped the link in the comments. So register for that. Any questions before we wrap up here? This was such a great conversation. I knew when we were talking that we needed to have it in public. For anybody that's watching in the future, please drop a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Register for Alicia's workshop, which will be in the comments. You may have to scroll depending. Reach out if you want to continue the conversation. I will tell you that I think it is so ironic that today is Juneteenth. I've liberated myself from makeup. I've liberated myself from business attire. I've liberated myself from needing a virtual background because, like that museum with 2.5 million artifacts, you're going to see all my artifacts today. It is what it is. It's Juneteenth, and I feel freedom from the burdens of something else.
Yeah. Well, one thing I do want to say, if for whatever reason you can't make this workshop, and P.S., it's only for people who want to do real things, right? So if you just like Arab enough as a slogan, but you're not really willing to look deep, this is probably not for you. But if you want to do real things and make change, then join us. That's what it's about. And if you can't make that, then there are other programs that I have one-on-one and group as well, because I'm on a mission to get as many women as possible living into the era of enough because we deserve it. We just absolutely deserve it. And I just don't, it just hurts my heart to see people live lives that they might regret when they could have very easily made a different decision and choice.
Right. They say the best time to have done something was you know, 10 years ago, the next best time is today. So, as long as you're breathing, you can make the change. You can make the decision to do something different.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so we've been here for an hour. Thank everybody who's watching. Thank everybody who's watching in the future. Thank you, Alicia, for coming and spending time with me. This was great. And maybe we'll do it again.
Let's see.
All right. Take care.